selling cars, being a sales manager, getting into the new role of GM. The car business is just such a dynamic business. All right, before we get to the video, I need a little bit of your help. Please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done that, and most importantly, please send this video to one or two people that you know could really use some motivation, and maybe this video will just help them out. All right, let's get right to it. You have so much different personalities, and then when you start diving deeper into those personalities, everybody's got different goals, everybody's got different stuff going on in their lives. Some people are more motivated than others. Others are just kind of showing up, doing their job. Others want to get advanced, others don't want to get advanced in the business. Some people really understand the business, some people don't understand the business. And somehow, as you move up and you have to manage all these people, it kind of changes a little bit. It's changing how I think a little bit. I'm pretty forward thinker for the most part. And I think that's one thing that's really done me well in this business is it doesn't matter what role I'm in. I'm always thinking ahead, and I'm always thinking, different. I'm trying to think like my manager. I'm trying to think like the owner. I'm trying to think like the customer, and because it's all together, right? Like it takes everything in order to make this kind of business really work. It just takes everything. And you're going to have the owner, and the owner's going to want a certain thing, right? They're going to want to grow the business. They're going to want to be profitable. And most owners, whatever we're not achieving is what becomes most important, because they're so competitive and they want to do so well, and they know that everything's important. So they naturally gravitate towards the things that we're not doing the best at. And those are all of a sudden becoming the focal point. And what happens with that is if you have somebody that's not really goal oriented, or somebody who's not like super focused on, really winning, those people have a hard time with that because they take it as negativity, right? So you're going to take it as negativity if you're those people, because you're going to be like, wow, man, look, we just sold all these cars, but I understand X, Y, and Z weren't the best, but man, how come we're not talking about how many cars we sold, or how come we're not talking about this, right? And then that goes down. Then you got the general manager, and the general manager is the one that needs to absorb what the owner talks about. Okay. And I believe that is like I got to be a sponge. Okay, I have to be a sponge. So when the owner comes down and talks about what's important, my job is to figure out why that's not happening. And then when I figure out why it's not happening, then I got to figure out how to make that happen. Okay, but my job is not to be a screen and let all of what's getting told to me filter down in a negative way. Because this business at its core is a people business, right? A people business. And we should show up every day excited to be there. Excited, happy, have fun, treat the customers amazing. And we shouldn't have the beatdown sessions. Now, there's a time and place where you gotta be real with somebody, and you gotta have those hard conversations. But I think thinking more along the lines like I'm saying, like I think owner says, "Hey, you're not selling enough new cars at your store." Okay, and then you're the GM. Now follow me, even if you're a salesperson, and you can start wrapping your mind around this stuff. It's beneficial. Okay, so if you're the owner, and you didn't sell enough new cars. So the GM gets talked about, and that conversation could be real difficult because we didn't sell enough new cars. And then the GM goes to the general sales manager and the sales managers and has that conversation with them. You guys didn't sell enough new cars. Now, this conversation in dealerships probably go a lot of different ways. But what I'm learning, and at least what I believe in, is at first, is it possible to sell the amount of new cars that we're talking about? That's the first thing, right? Yeah, okay, it is. Then the next thing is, are the managers capable of actually achieving that goal and leading the team to that? That'd be the next thing. Then yes. Okay. Then why? Why isn't it? And this sometimes, this sometimes you gotta dig deep, and you gotta kind of really figure out what's going on, the kind of the heartbeat of the store, and look at trends and changes, and there's going to be a lot of things that impact it. I mean, there's going to be inventory, the economy a little bit, your people, your salespeople, are they motivated? How are how the sales managers treating them during the tough month? Are you focused more on used cars? The product knowledge. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, right? And you kind of try to figure out what that might be. And then when you go to the sales manager, there's a goal. You got to put out a goal, and we have to be like, hey, this is the amount, and this is just non-negotiable. We have to get this, okay? We have to get this goal. It's non-negotiable. Here's what I think's going on. Here's how I can help. What's your plan of action? Let's get after it. And then you got to make sure that they're doing it. You got to make sure that you're following up with the managers and make sure they're doing it, right? But then you go down to the next level, right? As the manager, it's like, okay, again, you're the sponge. You take everything the GM said, and now you go to your sales staff and you figure out, are my people capable of selling this many new cars? They are, yes. Okay. And then you start figuring out why they didn't sell that many new cars, looking at the details, seeing if there's any trends, but when you start going down the levels at the dealership, one thing that becomes greater and greater and greater effect on the business is what those people are dealing with. Okay? So as an owner, most of the time, at least in my experience, it doesn't matter what's going on in that owner's personal life, and it's good or it's positive or not or whatever. It doesn't seem to matter, because business is business. Personal is personal. And those two never get wrapped up together. So even if the owner is just having a terrible month, a terrible couple months, a terrible year, home life is terrible, that's not going to be affected when it comes down to business. Okay, that it just doesn't. And then when it goes to the general manager, it's the same thing. Okay, the home life, the personal life, and in the conversations with the owner don't affect the emotion or how the business is conducted to the general sales manager. Shows up and it's business. Then when it goes down to the sales manager, okay, now that's going to start creeping a little bit. Okay, it's going to start creeping up a little bit. Home life is going to affect the sales managers. The way you talk to them, your way of communicating with them, it's going to affect different managers in different ways. But it is. Home life is going to be a little bit of a challenge. You got a sales manager that's just struggling with bills for whatever reason. They're struggling with their married life. They're struggling with their kids. That's going to affect them. It just is, because it's a skill that you have to learn in order to move up in business. and they just might not have learned it yet. So that's possible, right? But now, as a sales manager, when you go down to the salespeople, that's going to grow even greater. Okay? Salespeople, that is going to affect them, and you know this. You ever had a salesperson that's had a terrible month, and then you hand them their paycheck? You ever watch them after you give them their paycheck? You ever watch what they do that day if it's a terrible paycheck? You ever watch their body language, their activity, how they conduct themselves? All of a sudden they're doing things a little bit different than they never would have done before. But it goes deeper than that. It's not about the one bad month. It's why is that one bad month affecting them so bad? Okay, and there could be numerous reasons. But why is it affecting them so bad? And if you don't know that as a sales manager, and you don't know your people that well, you're going to always have these tough times and inconsistent months because you truly don't know how to manage the people. You know how to manage the process, you know how to manage the business, but you don't understand how to manage your people. And if you don't understand how to manage your people, it's going to be tough for everybody. Okay? But I mean, even take it one step further. Go to the lot attendant. You don't think personal life is going to affect the lot attendant? You don't think how the salespeople talk to the lot attendant is going to affect the lot attendant? You think the lot attendant really cares if they show up today to get talked to shitty by a salesperson if that's happening at your dealership? Okay, and what if that happens? What happens then? I mean, let's be honest, right? I tell the lot attendants, hey, unfortunately, this is probably the lowest paying job at the dealership, but at the same time, it's one of the most important. So I understand those two things don't correlate, right? It shouldn't be the lowest paying job yet, but the most needed position. But it just is because it's an entry level position. And you can talk to them about, hey, but this is a step in the door and we can get you into another position. That's the ultimate goal. So I do apologize, but how much does your lot attendant affect your business? Keeping your cars clean, making sure they're extra nice after you sold them, just keeping the showroom looking good. But we don't think about these things if we're so busy, stuck in the process and stuck in our way of like, this is how it has to be, but you got to have a general sense of how everything's going in the dealership, right? One thing I learned a long time ago when we're having a rough month, the general manager always uplifted everybody's spirits. He always made things easy. He always made things fun. He still obviously managed the process and managed everything the way he's supposed to, but he just did it in a lighthearted mood. Now, when we were having some really great record months, this is when the hard conversations started to come. This is when the beatdown started to happen because he knew. Don't ever kick a dog when he's down, right? Never kick somebody when they're down. Lift them up when they're down. But when they're up, this is the time, man. This is the time. And I don't know, maybe that's the way to do it, maybe it's not, but it made sense because if I had a terrible month and a terrible paycheck and I got treated like shit, I really want to show back up tomorrow, right? But if I had a great month and a great paycheck and I was getting a little bit of a hard time, I didn't care because I wanted to show back up tomorrow. So I don't know. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense. My management style is a little different. I mean, I'm usually upbeat, positive all the time because I know at the core of this business, it's a people business, and you can shuffle chips around, and you can do all these different things within inside of a dealership. And I've seen so much of it, and everything just gets shuffled around and make things look good. But it's like you shuffle chips from this section, make this other section look good. Then that section looks bad. Then you shuffle chips from this side over that side. that side looks bad, right? And it's like that. I think that's a gift and a curse of the car business, right? But I think, me moving forward, it's like I don't want to shuffle chips. I don't want to shuffle chips around. I want to get to the root and cause of the problems and figure out what's wrong with the process. What is wrong with the process? I want to be humbled enough to understand that maybe my process isn't the best process for my people and my customers, right? Because without my people, I got nobody to help the customer. Without the customer, I got no need for the people. And sometimes I think we don't be thankful enough for the people, right? So you as a sales manager, and you should be grateful for your salespeople. You should be grateful for them. Yeah, they're all going to have different skills. They're all going to, have different motivations. They're all going to have different stuff going on at home. And, learn your people. Learn how to help your people and learn how to motivate them. Learn what actually motivates them. And it might not be money. So if you're all about the money and they're not, doesn't matter what you talk about. Salespeople, learn your finance people. Learn your sales manager. Have conversations with them. Learn what gets them to tick. Let them learn about you. Also, then when it comes down to the lot attendants, I mean, learn your lot attendants. Every once in a while, buy your lot attendant lunch. Have a 10-minute conversation with your lot attendant. How's he doing? How's she doing? You know, go over there. Service people, talk to your service people. Talk to your porters. Talk to your techs. Everybody's got something going on. Okay, everybody's got something going on, and the higher you're up in the business, the chances are you're better at handling it than most. Okay, but you got to learn your people. And that's what this business is all about, right? So I just challenge you guys, whatever level you're in, I challenge you guys to think broader than your position. Think outside your position. Think about how things affect one another. The next thing, this and that. How does it affect it, right? You're the sales manager. I mean, you're the salesperson. Why can't you walk outside, look at your used cars, see if they have buyer's guides in them? Why can't you just randomly go, you know what? Every day I show up to work, I'm going to go hop in two used cars and I'm just going to go drive two used cars. Just up and down the road real quick to see, what kind of condition they're in, see if they're, good. Because here's the thing. What if you get in one and drives and it's just, maybe there's a check engine light on for some reason. Maybe it just, it pulls to the left or something's going on. And then you're the salesperson that has to show that car, right? What do you do at that point? What you do is you go to your sales manager and complain about your service department. Then your sales manager, he gets mad because he thinks you just lost the deal. He goes to the service manager. He complains. Maybe they just missed it. Maybe it just happened sitting on the lot. Who knows? But we can avoid these things if we expand our thinking a little bit. If we go outside our box, right, and we stop blaming people that are outside of our box for our results, quite possibly we can improve our results, improve our relationship, improve the entire store, all because we do these little acts. And this is tough for people because most people, they show up and they're not concerned about all that, especially in a salesperson level or a lot of tenant level, right? As you go down, they're not too concerned about that because not their job. Their job is to show up and sell a car to make money, and anything they do that doesn't have to do with directly selling a car and making money, in their eyes, it's costing us money. But if we're honest, we got a lot of downtime in this business, and that downtime is not utilized very, very well. So, yeah, just challenge all you guys. Think a little bit. Expand your thinking. Think about what other salespeople are going through, other managers are going through, a lot of tenant service people. Think about what everybody's going through and how their day is and how their day's going, and brighten it up for everybody. Just brighten it up. Dig inside yourself. Step that process up just a little bit. Do a couple things that are outside of your normal job, but that if you did it, would actually benefit you in the long run. Start doing those things, and you're going to see a massive change over time. Because 2026, it's not just going to be, oh, this is the best year ever. 2026, there is no reason why you can't make it happen. But you have to make it happen. That's the thing. There's no reason why you can't make it happen. but you have to make it happen. No excuses, okay? No excuses in 2026. So let's get it going. We got a full month right now to get ready, get prepared, so we're not sitting there January 1 talking about our new goals, okay? Let's just make it happen every day, every single day, okay? I appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Share the video with somebody that might need it. And hey, as always, hustle over talent, man. That's all it takes. Let's go.
This one's for the ones who keep going, even when life's got them on the ropes. Hustle over talent.